Lemon balm, or Melissa officinalis, is a member of the Lamiaceae family, along with mint, rosemary, marjoram, sage, basil and lavender, among many others. Its popular name comes from the fact that the leaves smell of lemon when they're crushed. Lemon balm is a perennial growing across Europe, North America and Asia. That gorgeous lemon smell certainly came in handy in Elizabethan London, where people included lemon balm in their tussie-mussy bouquets to help mask the smells of the street. In contemporary witchcraft, balm makes a popular ingredient in incense used for healing, reducing grief or boosting the memory. It's also a plant that appears in folk remedies and herbalism alike, without accruing much folklore as an actual plant. In the Victorian language of flowers, balm meant sympathy, and given how many ailments it seems to treat, it was probably a good bet to send to ill patients. But let's dig into the folklore of lemon balm in this week's episode of Fabulous Folklore. Hello there and welcome to Fabulous Folklore, the podcast for all things folklore, occult and just a bit weird. I'm your host, Icy Sedgwick, blogger, fantasy author and your guide into these rather mysterious realms. I've got some rare things to show you, so come on in, take a look around, but be careful not to touch anything. These things sometimes bite. Well, hello there, and welcome back to Fabulous Folklore with me, your host, Icy Sedgwick. I do hope that you're well, and that June is treating you well. Now, we're going to continue with this month's theme, which is essentially just the folklore of plants, and there's not really any rhyme or reason as to why I chose them. It's just they've ended up being plants which actually have quite a lot of uses, even if they don't necessarily have as much folklore associated with them. So they're in folk medicine and folk remedies, and there's some folk belief around them, but not in the same way that you would get with something like, for example, nettles. And I was aware of lemon balm, and I actually only saw it for the first time in person at Stirling Castle in the Queen Anne Garden, and I was genuinely shocked at quite how yellow it is. Maybe it's not supposed to be, I don't know, but it is certainly a very cool plant, as we're going to get into. Because we're going to start off with its association with bees, and it is associated with both bees and beekeeping in Europe, although this does also apply to other areas as well. And the Melissa part of its botanical name, and that's the Melissa officinalis, comes from the Greek word for bee. And at one stage people actually called it Melocephalum or bee leaf. Now that's not to be confused with bee balm or the monarda plant, which is also part of the Lamiaceae family, and it's found in North America, but that's not the plant that we're looking at here. Lemon balm is a different plant. Now, according to Greek legend, lemon balm was prolific at temples to Artemis as a favourite plant of the honeybees, and a nymph called Melissa apparently guarded the bees as well. Now, Pliny the Elder actually thought that balm delighted bees more than any other plant, and unlike a lot of his other stuff, and again, I know I always end up dunking on poor Pliny, but in this case, he actually wasn't far off the mark, because apparently the leaves contain a lot of the same chemicals as bee pheromones, so of course they would be attracted to them. This would explain why people use lemon balm in Bulgaria and Turkey to encourage honeybees to return to a hive. And they would also rub new hives with the leaves so that the swarms would settle there instead, and it's certainly preferable to the bees choosing to swarm and going elsewhere. Now, oddly, despite bees' preference for balm, some people think it can actually deter other insects, and a respondent to plantlore.com said her mother brewed a batch of lemon balm and bathed her dog in it while the dog was in season to keep insects away. But we also see it quite a lot in remedies for mental and emotional health, and Arab physicians in the 9th and 10th centuries used balm to help with worry or uneasiness. Mildred Fielder relates a remedy of adding crushed lemon balms to hot water to soothe the nerves and also flavour food as well. Now, this might not have been too far off the mark, and I know if you listen to the conversation that I had with Sarah from Ronan Sage, she was talking about the fact that, these physicians back in the 9th and 10th century, they understood that these plants did actually do something. That's why they become part of herbalism. And it's only now that medicine's starting to actually research these properties of these plants. And in 2014, a study saw lemon balm added to drinks and yogurt for participants who reported reduced anxiety after consuming the lemon balm. Clearly, more research is needed, but it is fascinating to see this study appear to support what these Arab physicians already knew. In contemporary witchcraft, it appears in magical workings for uplifting the mood, healing and attracting love, and we all know how much I love my love divination and love magic. But unlike the more obvious love-related plants like rose, lemon balm is more likely to bring in a gentle and compassionate partner, and apparently simply growing and tending lemon balm is supposed to help this happen. Astrologer William Lilly placed balm under the rulership of Venus, so this link with love does make sense. You can also infuse lemon balm in the home to lift the mood of those within. And one way to do that is by adding lemon balm to floor washes to help cleanse rooms after illness or argument. It will also make the place smell amazing as well, which is quite good. But a study in 2004 found lemon balm did actually reduce psychological stress induced in the lab. True, it did only test 18 people, and again, more research is needed, but it's a good place to start. And this may explain why people in the Eastern Mediterranean region use lemon balm to help drive off evil spirits. Now, one respondent to planlord.com from Derbyshire actually advised drinking lemon balm tea during a sleepless night to bring on drowsiness. Again, there may be some truth to this, because a 2006 study showed that children with insomnia enjoyed a whopping 70 to 80% improvement when taking a combined dose of valerian and lemon balm. Again, more research is needed because obviously they're not sure if it's just the lemon balm, if it's actually the valerian, if it's the combination, all these different factors. But again, it is quite interesting that people are actually researching this stuff. As well as providing emotional and mental support, balm also appears in a range of medical remedies for physical ailments, as well as those affecting the heart or mind. As always, none of this post constitutes medical advice, so if you have a medical issue, consult your healthcare practitioner instead. Now, not to hype lemon balm up or anything, but Paracelsus thought that lemon balm would revive anyone who was unwell. That's quite a lofty claim to be making there. I should also point out at this point as well that there is some discussion that because lemon balm is in the Lamiaceae family, if you have an allergy to mint, probably best to give it a miss. But I just thought I'd put that in while I remembered. 16th century herbalist John Gerard claimed that lemon balm could drive off melancholy when added to wine and drunk. You have to wonder if it was the wine or the balm doing that there, I guess. And to be fair, he did also say that balm was good against the bitings of venomous beasts. So make of that what you will. He did suggest using the juice of balm on open wounds, and it was more efficient if you added the juice to an oil or unguent for this purpose. And according to Maud Grieve, this actually worked because of the balsamic oils of plants that provided antiputrescent effects. So if you essentially dressed wounds with such plant-based material, it meant that the oil would seal the wound or sore as it dried, and that would block oxygen from reaching the germs. It's always worth bearing in mind with Maud Grieve, she did do a lot of research into these plants, but she was also writing in the 1930s, so it's entirely possible that science has since disproved that. And I mean, I would always go for something like Savlon if I had an open wound, but there again, that's just because that's usually what I've got to hand. Now, balm's aid in healing wounds made with iron led to Dioscorides and Pliny calling balm ironwort, which again, if that's not a metal band by now, it really needs to be. But apparently balm was good at staunching blood if you tied it to the sword that made the wound. Now, bear in mind that particular nugget came from Pliny, and this sounds a lot more like sympathetic magic, where you're linking the wound to the weapon that made it, and I can't help thinking that you'd probably be better off staunching the blood flow some other way, and perhaps using lemon balm on the wound. I don't really think that if you cut yourself with a kitchen knife, wrapping lemon balm around the knife is really going to do a huge amount, but as I say, that came from Pliny. But it is interesting that there is this link between it and wound healing. Now, Gerard also noted that Arabic physicians found balm to be good for heart problems, and that famous physician Ibn Sina actually prescribed balm to make the heart merry and joyful, and that it strengthened the vital spirits. Now, part of that came from the doctrine of signatures, which I have mentioned briefly before, but this is the medical system in which people believed that plants cured whatever body part they resembled. And its name comes from the idea that God left his signature on the world to tell people how to use plants and trees. The most obvious example for this one is lungwort or pulmonaria, because it's got sort of spotty leaves, which people thought resembled diseased lungs, so you would use it for respiratory illnesses and so on. There's a really famous example of walnuts look like brains, which they do, and people would use them for brain-related issues. Now, the fact that they contain a whole load of nutrients, which is good for the brain, does kind of help. But in this case, balm has heart-shaped leaves, and therefore it was believed to be good for the heart. Now, I was actually wondering if, again, they weren't that far off the mark, and this is just speculation on my part, but it's the idea that the plant can apparently reduce anxiety, and when I think of a particular family of medications that can be used to treat both heart problems via blood pressure and also anxiety, I'm thinking of things like beta blockers here, it does make me wonder if actually that's why Ibn Sina talked about it making the heart merry and joyful, because it's actually removing anxiety, but that might just be me reading something into it. I love Ibn Sina as well, by the way. He was always like my favourite physician when I did the history of medicine. And if you don't have a favourite medieval physician, then I suggest that you figure out who it would be. But if you also mix the leaves of balm with salt, Dioscorides claimed that balm could soothe the king's evil, which is scrofula, hard swellings, or gout pain. Now, these are all quite lofty claims for lemon balm. Are there any more achievable uses of balm for your physical health? And yes, there is more folklore around this as well. And this one is one of my absolute favourites because some think it can actually improve your life expectancy or longevity. And Llewellyn, Prince of Glamorgan, lived to be 108, and he cited cups of lemon balm tea every morning and night as the secret to his longevity. Likewise, John Hussey of Sydenham apparently drank balm tea with honey every morning for 50 years, and he lived to be 116. So it's a doable one, you know what I mean? And Grieve provides a recipe of 1 pint of boiling water for every ounce of lemon balm, which you infuse for 15 minutes, let it cool, strain it, and then drink it. She also adds that you can add sugar and lemon peel if you want a refreshing summer drink. And quite honestly, that does actually sound really nice. Now, if you are on any medication, do check with your doctor first, as balm can interfere with some prescriptions. Like I said earlier, avoid it if you've got mint allergies, but that's like ingesting it if you wanted to use it in floor washes and so on. Knock yourself out, that should be fine. But yeah, I just thought it sounds like a nice thing. And it does actually have some other folk uses as well, because a respondent to plantlaw.com from Derbyshire advised a lemon balm infusion to reduce itching during the later stages of chickenpox. And that makes me kind of think that sounds a lot more pleasant than that awful calamine lotion that was used on me when I had chickenpox when I was about 6, just to stop the scratching. Another respondent from Gloucestershire advised lemon balm tea for stomach problems or colic. And again, that one might have some basis in fact, because a 2010 study plied those suffering with functional dyspepsia with sorbet, both with and without added lemon balm, after a meal. Now, all the patients who had sorbet did actually say that their symptoms had gotten better, but the version with lemon balm seemed to have worked even better than the other version. So again, more research is needed, but I think it's really interesting how many of these studies are going, actually, yeah, the lemon balm is having an effect. So what do we ultimately make of the folklore of lemon balm? Well, much like the iris, which obviously I did a couple of weeks ago, the thing that fascinated me while I was researching lemon balm was the relative lack of folklore. So lemon balm appears in remedies for its uses, whether that's for physical, emotional or mental health, and even its appearance in antiquity is related to its uses through its ability to attract bees. And very useful plants often have a lot of folklore, which reflects how useful they are. As I guess I've mentioned nettles earlier, which is a good example. But here it's like the uses remain and the law doesn't. And again, Sarah mentioned this in our chat, but when you look at something like calendula, it doesn't really have a huge amount of folklore, probably because people just knew what it was for and it was so common. And I can't help feeling like lemon balm might have the same thing going on with it. It's relatively easy to grow from seed, although it's best to do this indoors between March and May, and you can then transfer the seedlings outside when the frost has passed. Lemon balm likes sun and likes shade in well-draining, moist soil. And as you might imagine, it's a great choice if you want to attract bees to your garden. Or indeed, you can grow it indoors on a sunny windowsill and enjoy the ensuing domestic harmony. So I'm fascinated to know if you knew about lemon balm. Have you come across it before? Do you grow it? Do you take it? Because you can get it in capsule form and tea form and all sorts of things like that. Let me know what you think of lemon balm. Like I say, I did see a specimen of it at Stirling Castle and I was like, oh, that's what it looks like. So that was quite cool. Next week, we're going to be having a look at St. John's wort. I have done this before for Patreon supporters, but I am expanding that out as like a main episode as well, purely because we've got the summer solstice coming up, and St. John's wort, along with ferns, are like one of the summer solstice plants, for want of a better word. So we're going to be digging into them a lot more, and we'll see what we find. And then the final episode is going to be on rue this month, and then we're going to be switching to a different theme in July. You know how it works. The bonus episode also, I'll tell you now, I haven't recorded it yet, but it's going to be Legends of Stirling Castle, because I've just been, and there's some absolute corkers, so I thought I might as well have a look into that as well. So if you are interested in any of the bonuses, there's 50 odd episodes now, like bonus episodes for Patreon supporters, available at the $3.50 a month tier or higher. Obviously you can pay more if you want. And then there's an absolute ton of short storytelling based episodes, which are just like 3 or 4 minutes long, where I just simply tell a folklore story. And then obviously there's also the exclusive articles as well, and those are like available even if you only pay 75p a month, which is like the absolute lowest that I can do. You support me making these episodes, but then you also get an exclusive article as well. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next week when we have a look at St. John's wort. Cheerio. Well, thanks for listening, and I hoped you enjoyed that episode. If you did, feel free to leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts, because that helps other people find the show too. It also takes between 4 and 6 hours to research, write, record and edit these episodes, so if you want to help support my time in doing that, then you can buy me a coffee, or you can join the Fabulous Folklore family on Patreon and enjoy extra benefits, including exclusive episodes and articles and even illustrated talks. All the links you need are below, and thanks in advance.